south, and they can rotate either way whenever the zone does eventually shift. But I want to point out something to you, right? So this year, and obviously you did a video today, so you're very well rehearsed in what the plan is for this year competitively. But we have PNC and ENC. And have you noticed how a lot of the Canadians have split themselves up in teams so that they're not necessarily inhibiting their ability to qualify by having 3 or 4 members under the one team name?
Oh, the Canadians with the next tier strats. Instead of putting together one squad that can win all the PGSs, instead the eyes are on the Esports World Cup stuff. But, I mean, it is interesting because we have had some conflicts along that in the past, specifically whenever we look at, like, the way that some of these Americas teams have been set up. So I like the fact that we can see plans for a year in advance coming out from these guys. They're looking to the future, because if you're just trying to do the best you can last minute, you're always going to have a bad time. I'm one of those guys that's always planning like 5 years in advance if I can. So I love to see the fact that our players are actually embracing that a bit more too.
And then you'll actually talk to them and find out, no, they just didn't like each other, and that's why they're not on the same team. But
I mean, yeah, that tends to happen a little bit. I mean, there's like, what, 10 Canadians that we see consistently? After about a decade or so of playing together, you're going to have a couple of dust-ups with some of them here.
Yeah, lovers' quarrels, we'll call it. But for those of you at home, if you are watching and do want to take part in these cups, you can register now. Go to wasdify.com. That is wasdify.com. You can scan that QR code, and you can sign your team up to take part in the scrims to try qualify for the action this week and try get in the next week's finals.
Hey, look, the athletes of Christ, they're walking on water. I'm not going to be able to stop making these jokes this whole day. I'm sorry.
I thought Parlo was bad last week, Matt, but then I remembered, yeah, Matt, you're just as bad.
I can't help. We were talking beforehand. I told you I grew up on a ranch in Texas. What makes you think that I don't know the Bible to make consistent Bible jokes the whole rest of the day?
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to be right there with you. Let's not pretend I'm anti-jokes here. You know I'm just as bad as everybody else. But let's speak about these rotations, right? Injectors are trying to hold the dots as they rotate past. They're going to go on the other side of the road, spotting out Plushy, and that's some nice shots being sent back the other way. Puts Plushy into cover, and it should secure the rotate for dots, at least for now, unless they decide they want to set up on the bridge. But if I were them, I'd get across that bridge early.
Yeah, but they've got to come in with some hesitation. The way that these bridges are set up, you always have to assume somebody's going to be on the other side of it. Early rotate, though, is going to be big for them. You can see that they want to make sure that before they get to the crossroads section, they want to do this little side path down. If you guys didn't know, if you haven't been watching a lot of competitive recently, this is the way you handle bridge camps the best that you can. Just try to navigate getting through.
Yes. I think that they may have overestimated the size of that gap.
Just a little bit. Just a smidge. Usually you leave the vehicles up on top, but you can force them through. That is actually entirely capable. So we do see Pistol down over here. This is going to be on the western bridge. So across from it, a good defense that's going to be set up. We've got Balefrost and the NA boys holding up on the other side of it, but notice that there is a very close threat, and that's going to be Blazer, I think, trying to toss out a Molotov.
Yeah, toss the nade over, and it does a lot of damage on the shin boy, and you can see that EGA is trying to get that res off, and they will send Zuki a little closer. Eyes on by Jappa now as he can spot out one, sees the other two members up on the hill as well, but he's more focused on cleaning up the down player because you know how good Shin Boy is. But 4x spray, you gotta hit those shots, Jappa. I know it can get windy, but you've just revealed your position and you're isolated.
Now you just got to win the firefights. Taking too much damage. Balefrost is going to get the better side of it. NA still alive. 4 up. Manages to reset in the lower sections as well. And now a problem for Pistol on the other side. Not too much more they can do except for regroup. I don't see any third parties that are going to look to get too involved right now. And that works out great for New Gen All-Stars.
Yeah, the nearest team that could even move this way is Duel, and they're currently just south of Gatka and Chopstick, so they're quite a ways away as things stand. Zuki lining up the Kar 98, 3 rounds in reserve, fires one, manages to hit the shot, but it's a body shot, not the headshot he needed, as Jappa will be dealt with. And you know what? I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see them abandon this fight now. You've got your kill, you've got your point. Maybe just pick up, move, rotate, play the long game. And that could open up the... Oh, are they? Yeah, they are. They're picking up, they're moving, but it could open up the ability to get the res as well.
I mean, getting control of this compound can be great for the later stages, but it's already so close to the edge of the zone, you have to assume that it's going to just be mathematically removed as the new circles start to pop. So playing along the hillsides more into the east, a much safer option. Whenever we see these circles, we often see a lot of hillside firefights being the determining factor in the later stages, so having the inside track to the later stage, not a surprise at all. And this is just a good read on circles right now coming out from New Gen All-Stars.
Yeah, and still a long time to go before that circle does pop for phase 2. About 2.5 minutes from now, we'll see that second zone shift. And, you know, you might not have the map open at home, but looking at it ourselves, Matt, we can see that, at least 60-70% of the lobby are currently over on the southern island. And let's turn our attention over to those. Oh my god, the athletes of Christ are at it again. They love a good early game fight. They've got it down onto the dots, and LFP is going to just keep the fire down to allow for Fana to go for that res on the Tony.
This is just a timing situation that we were seeing on the other side of it. There is the team that was holding the northern section of the bridge. Looks like Tony should be able to get rezzed. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Athletes of Christ just really just trying to fend up right now, make sure that nobody for dots can go for any peaks, reset themselves, and kind of prep for the next stage, because this is a strong point for now, but remember that this is a beachhead approach coming up from the Athletes of Christ. So they know that there's probably a couple of people that could be taking boats back behind them. They don't want to stay here for too long.
Yeah, LFP trying to convert the dots over to the good word of 556 as he sends his shots down that range, but the dots look like they're back up. So back up over on the other side of the map, Viejo Pistolero are turning their attention towards the New Gen All-Stars once more. Balefrost will smoke his way out, and remember, Zuki can garner so much information now as he's able to just peek on up and have a look, but a nice little off angle by Finn will get Zuki down to 75 HP, and that'll just buy Bale the time he needs to fall back.
And this is the great position coming up from New Gen All-Stars. There's that little ravine that everybody that comes out of the compounds that Pistolero is holding down wants to try and take out. It's the safe angle to get out of this position. And look at this. Perfect crossfire has been set up from New Gen All-Stars, expecting somebody having to try to get around it. But Finna is a bit isolated. He's the island over here. So his job is just to make sure that he is the key point in the crossfire after somebody else takes aggro. If he gets too much attention pressure on him, he could just have a wolf pack come up from Pistolero and just hunt him down.
Yeah, Shinboy wants to get closer to Zuki, who does have the K9 out, but Blazer is the person who's going to prevent that from happening as some nice shots are sent back the other way. But this gunfight is still ongoing, but looking at the map, it looks like X10 might be about to join it very soon as they're just pitching up on the other side of that bridge, waiting for that next pop. But New Gen All-Stars, I think with the circle that we have and the space that they know they have based on no other teams crossing the bridge, they know they can invest time and resources into this fight map because they've got a huge gap to move into after this.
Well, they are vulnerable from this approach coming up from X10. So if they're not careful, the circle does pop. It does stay on military. The members from New Gen All-Stars did try to make the cross, and now it's going to be a full retreat to regroup. X10 steals that away, and now Pistola has this entirely new problem on if we see X10 stop back on behind the other side of it, but quick dust up going on over here in Novo.
Yeah, Maya's got his eyes locked on to Klawe on the other side, but Klawe will confirm out that kill on the Longere. Maya now using the car for some cover, can see the barrel of the gun through the fence, but not really able to do any damage as I've noticed. Those smokes will be tossed by Tempest closer and closer towards Dad Buff. And Matt, I suppose I don't quite have the Dad Buff yet myself, but you're one of the people who do.
Yeah. I don't know. After a certain point,
is it a buff?
Does it just make you old? And isn't that a whole new set of debuffs that come along with it? You get Dad Strength, but you also get Dad Bod, so I guess those are two benefits. And then you get Bad Eyesight. What?
Oh, I'm sold. You're selling the idea on me. You really are.
Look, all I'm saying is Leonardo DiCaprio rocks the Dad Bod a lot. Apparently, it can't be too bad, right?
Yeah, but he also has money, so that helps.
Like, what do you mean, us esports casters? We just rolling in it, right?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, some people, when they drop their wallet, it makes a noise. Mine just kind of like falls like a feather.
You have a wallet? I don't have a need to carry a wallet ever because there is no purpose in having money on me at any point in my life. Looking around, we got a couple of rotators coming in. It's going to be Pest over into the east, and then to the west, it's going to be T.O. Pistol, still kind of trapped on the outside, but it's going to be a nice push coming up from Simplicity, and Plushy looks like they really want to get Hooligan gone.
Yeah, Plushie injecting himself inside the building now as he wants to get closer and closer to Hooligan, who will hold the stairs with the barrel. He's alone, he's on an island, and this is a problem that you can solve with numbers, right? Yes, one player might go down, but the whole point of this is each other's shoulders. One player pushes up, he falls, the second one gets the trade. Hooligan now fully revealing his position will take the even more defensible position on the other side, and Hooligan will get one. Plushie trying to push, but this is a bit of a problem. They didn't get up the stairs quick enough to back their teammate, Matt, and they've lost it.
I mean, that was extremely well played coming up from Hooligan. He was just holding the upper area. He was reading the footsteps down below him, doing counter moves around, and it's just a hit and run strategy. Pushing up those stairs against a solo is one of the deadliest things that you can do. If somebody knows how to play that building, there's just so many hidey holes, so many angles, and if you stack up going for the double peek, you can get punished so heavily, and that is exactly what happened over there. Timothy on the other side trying to take some shots at PNG back behind him. It's going to be right along the coastline. Most of our teams are starting to settle in somewhere now. It's just a couple of these late rotators coming in.
Yeah, and the rest of Fate now are going to begin wrapping around this one, as well as Timothy's just going to check out the other bungalow, make sure nobody's in it, as the BZ will provide some cover. Timothy's BZ does get that knock on the Sonics, not to be confused with the old North American roster. They're now Falcons, so yeah, remember, Sonics RIP, even though they're using the same color here. But Matt, that's a big shift.
Yeah, no, that's going back right over next to the bridge. Bridge still being a core component of this, so Pest not having to move too fast. Team Fate trying to set themselves up, but the res does come in on the other side. Do they have the time? With Team Fate kind of slowing down on this approach, Meds are starting to get into a better situation, and now the bottleneck is starting to be its own problem. They're running up next to each other. Double up on shots. Sonics comes up big.
The M249 shredding them as they stepped on through. I think there was even some friendly fire in the midst of all that action, Matt, but that is a huge gunfight win. Over on the other side, what it takes. Marcis, he's going to spot X10 as they go past, but he takes damage from Santa Hero, and that'll see him fall. What it takes coming back inside the action. I've missed casting these guys, but they'll lose Marcis in the early stages as we watch Nevermind's lost. He's, you know what, he arrived in style and he left in not as much style as I guess, as he ends up falling out as well. But it's just crazy now with this circle. It's just barely anything to play.
Yeah, with so much of it being water, nobody wants to play the north. They know the way these next couple of circles are going to pop. So it's all going to be about controlling the footholds. And this is a great point to play from. If you're the athletes of Christ, these guys have a perfect read right down into crossroads where a lot of teams get bottlenecked. Easy way to try to pick up some damage, couple of kills and rotate, or at least, even if you don't get the knock yourself or the kill yourself, you're forcing skirmishes between teams, just trying to extricate themselves out of what is usually a very bad situation.
Athletes of Christ, they've got themselves locked into a good position on the southeast corner of that circle. They can gatekeep a lot of teams as they make their way in. And remember, they're a team that whenever you do push them, they back themselves 100% in every single gunfight that they'll find themselves in. Team KZito, on the other hand, they've got full control of the West. This team, right, Matt, I've casted them quite a few times. They used to have another player, basically every player's name at one point was a reference to Game of Thrones. They've still got Brandon Roberts, but they did lose, was it Tyrion, I think was the other player they had on the team? I'm nearly sure they're all named after Game of Thrones characters.
I think so, because I cast them a couple times as well. I don't remember what the iterations of them were. I mean, Tyrion was kind of like not the best for combat anyway, so if anything, he had to be the IGL, right? I'm assuming. I don't know. If you name yourself Bran, I guess Bran would be the IGL, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but he can't really be on the front foot either, so I guess that's that for Bran. Plushie will spot out EMT as they make their way in. Longeray gets knocked again, and this time he will get dealt with. Maya's fallen as well, and Pest Control will wipe out Elements. Nice couple of points there for another, well-tenured North American roster, and it's Hot and Spicy that did all the damage.
But it's going to be all on Friends of Christ. Notice that angle. They're still inside the new circle. They keep corralling everybody back up into the north. That's what led Injected to having to take this firefight. You can see it's going to be AFI coming up back behind what's going on over here. Now X10, after doing the long wrap on the other side, has to deal with Duel that's going to be in the high ground positions. NA trying to gatekeep over into the northwest. The hillsides we were talking about at the start. When we see these circles pop the way that they were popping at the start of this in Circle 1, more often than not, these foothills become the core component for the later stages of it. And the guys that moved early and got it are going to be heavily rewarded.
Could you say that the Athletes of Christ are on a crusade to the east, or would it be too soon?
Too soon. Because I don't think that they're really going to be going to the east. I think that they're just they're kind of holding the line right now. It's everybody else. It's maybe like the third crusade whenever everybody's coming back after them.
Yeah, I'm so glad you got that reference. I love. Yeah, I know for a fact if I said that on like an EMEA broadcast that they wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about.
Wait, you're totally messing up the theory about the fact that America doesn't have good education at times. Affinity though was the high ground. Oh. I liked going for the peak, but it was punished.
Yeah. But look, you should be able to get the res off. At least you hope that you can, as the smokes will be thrown down. Mizbo providing that smoke cover, and we'll go for the res. And injectors will use that kill feed and that noise to make their move as they get very, very close to the Athletes of Christ. So keep an eye on their move and whether or not they're going to crash mission. And they are. LFP. Oh my God, LFP just sprays them down, and the injectors are dealt with.
Again, with the strength of this compound and the capabilities of control that it has on everybody coming out of Crossroads is ridiculous. This is a beautiful read coming up from Athletes of Christ. Everybody else is just going to have to hunker down right up next to each other. You can kind of push a bit more to the south, but there's already squads that are set up over there. So AFI doesn't have any real options except for just kind of walk into the kill box that's already been set up. LFP's just got a read on everything right now. And you have to go down those steep hillsides right into a rain of bullets. And that is just... that's bad times, man. You can see once you make that landfall.
Come on, one more shot. Come on, Fana.
Oh, he got away with it.
Yes, Fana got a knock elsewhere, but somehow he got into cover. But the issue still remains. Once you get up to the edge of the circle, you're still either going to get held by X10 or the Athletes of Christ. So for AFI, it's just stuck between a rock and a hard place. And as I said, that Cluzera, he'll peek on over. He'll get Zalodi. Down falls another member of the squad, and like that just leaves Ducky as one of the last players standing.
Oh, X10, you now have the funnel back behind you, but you got a chance for a ton of free points. Lots of knocks that are going to slowly be creeping their way up, but you can see that they're using the hillside that's just going to be to their west. Keep their vehicles protected. Try to break any sight lines coming out from anybody from Friends of Christ. Other problem, though, is they're going to have a duel directly in front of them, and then a couple more friends and sneak attack just to the west of that. NA, all the way up over to the west, is feeling very good about their positioning as they've got kind of nobody else around them. All the other linchpin fights are going to be compression setups, while NA has got way more space to work with.
Yeah, not just NA, not NA, the roster, but all the North American kind of lineups are looking pretty good inside the circle, with Duel, NA, and Dots holding prime positions inside the circle as they make their way in. You'll see Team KZito, they're going to make a full crash onto Balefrost here. He'll get Nubsky, the first one to fall, covering fire on the other side, and that's great covering coming in from Shinboy and Beal as Nubsky and Anubis are both going to fall now, and that leaves Bran the Builder, the last player inside, and well, he ain't going to be building much more because he has been... well, he's been lit up like Swiss cheese, I guess, after that one, and just like that, Team KZito are going to fall.
And yeah, while Balefrost did go down, NA should be able to get over there pretty easy, get the res onto him. With the shots coming up from Dots, that crossfire would just decimated anything from Team KZito, so that made everything really easy. What it takes now, getting some vision on X10, so there's got to be a bit.
The open pest control are going to look to lock them in as well here. Matt, this could be trouble for that Brazilian roster.
Oh, I don't even know. The way that the timings on this are coming out, it's very complicated. Pest control with their setup, specifically having Conf already in a great spot to cut this one out, means the fact that the Athletes of Christ just don't have any good options. Instead, it's just Shack Life right now, just having to see if they can hold together long enough. The gatekeep has been entirely reversed, and man, Athletes of Christ have been pissing off a lot of people, and the punishment is coming due.
Yeah, X10 just spraying him down with that 3X on the AUG, and he's going to spot a K-Mind, and why not take those long-range shots as well? A little bit of damage being dealt, but X10 do not bite off more than you can chew. If you're too focused on one, Tony will get you, and Tony does get him a great spray from the FAMAS, and he'll manage to pop the meds before the blue zone takes him down. Great regrouping and great battling from the Athletes of Christ, but they are no means safe yet, because what an aid that was by Conf.
Well, just drops it in. Tony, the last one up. 3 HP. No real options. Just trying to run forward. Comp, look at him setting it up, running him right into X10. K-Mine actually goes down. It's going to be Iroh that spots him out Athletes of Christ do get eliminated. X10 has an easier path into the circle, but Duel is so close, waiting to pounce. As the new circle has revealed itself, and really it's just Duel and Pistola kind of inside of it right now.
Yeah, Duel got to deal with this quickly, because if you let X10 live too long, it opens up the door for Pest Control to really put the pressure on. And you can see Conf is getting really, really close now with that BRDM scouting out for the rest of the team, and that opens up the window for Joshy to get closer and closer to X10 as well. Nades being tossed now as Conf will step on out of that BRDM. He's pushing up towards Iroh, spots out Wooly and shoots him down. Great shots from Conf, and he is just living his life to the fullest. No fear whatsoever of being shot down.
I mean, he's just fooling guys. I'm going to make a play mode, and he's coming up really big. The BRDM just doing a ton of work. Jumps out on the other side. Not done yet. X10 just getting picked apart time and time again based off of reposition. Duel just kind of caught up in the middle of it all as well. This has just been a great set of plays coming up from Pest, and now they have to be careful. He might be biting off just a bit too much.
Dots eliminated as well as Penella Good put in work. We've seen Penella Good wipe out a couple of teams now as well, but Sonic's out in the open. K-Mine should be able to hit the shots, but it's not like K to miss a chance like that. So Penella Good, with 2 players up, are still alive and kicking. The new gen All-Stars, they've got Viejo Pistolero, that gunfight. Remember what I said earlier? They'll probably be able to get the res. They did. They got the recall. They've got 4 players back on their feet, and they're locking horns with the NA once again.
Pentalo's going to go down. That leaves Iroh, the last one up for the squad. Pistola has one of their players all the way over here, kind of taking some shots at Iroh right now. This is a really split up positioning coming up from Pistola, but very well played. If they can get control over both these high ground positions, it'll be great. Pest does not want to allow that to happen, so they're just trying to flank in, see if they can take out Iroh by themselves quickly and get control of the higher sections of this one. While Pistolero is all kind of separated out, that's allowed NA to just kind of sneak into the lowlands just to the north of this circle, and they're feeling really comfy over there.
Yeah, this is what NA did to build success last week. Just picking up points in the late game, taking really good positions, and building off the back of it. Pest Control on the other side. K-Mine is keeping an eye on everything that's going on between Penella Good and the new gen All-Stars, but Iroh is still a problem. He is the pest that they're looking to exterminate here, Matt. He's got the FAMAS. He's got it ready. There's another spray attempt onto Sonics as he runs on in, and somehow he's still alive as Danny will take down Iroh, and there was 4 left.
New Gen All-Stars just has to continue the sweep of these lower foothills. PNG already weakened. Oh, Nate rejected by the limbs coming out, but Shinboy is going to go ahead and hit the shots on it, and the push comes out. This is going to be where New Gen All-Stars is going to feel the most comfortable, but they've got to be careful. It's Sonics. Sonics the last one up for PNG, and we saw him just do a hero play already once today.
Oh my, look at the mini-map. As soon as NA took that knock, Pest Control and Viejo Pistolero both began moving in to close that noose on the team to the north. But Pest Control with a 2-2 split on the other side. I've got to keep an eye on where the rest of those members of Pistolero are as well. Blazer, the only player inside the circle as things stand. But Pest Control look like they've still got a pretty good spot here, Matt. I'd be feeling pretty good if I was Pest Control, but I think this game is going to be won by whichever team aren't engaged by NA first. I think NA are going to be the kingmakers of this final 3.
Well, I really like what Viejo Pistolero is doing, but they have to be careful. At these later stages, running these wide splits like that can leave you very vulnerable, especially with 2 4-man squads still up. I like the fact that they stepped over. They wanted to see if maybe they can take a chunk out of NA. They couldn't really do that. So now NA is reset. Pest Control is going to step away from the north. We can see Pistolero kind of doing the same thing. They're retreating and kind of allowing them to take the path that's going to be the least resistance and maybe open up some crossfire options where Pest can get some vision in. If Pistolero is playing this right, they could set themselves up for a great crossfire, but the firing lines from NA are so good. But there we're talking about. Look at this setup. Yappa already moving forward.
Yeah, Zuki just holding them down. I love the decision from NA to take the fight to Viejo, knowing that Pest Control were on the other side of the circle, but it may not work out for them. Great shots from Finna. That'll get the knock onto Zuki, and he can go for an instant res here onto Beal. Yappa is trying to peek over on the other side, but Finna is still closing that gap. Pest Control, they're just currently waiting and moving towards the center of the circles. Like I said, the team that get pushed first by NA, the other team are just going to set themselves up for success in the late game as Zuki will get that kill confirmed onto Beal.
I- Pistolero is trying to play for control over the circle for the in game and win it all. The problem with it is there's still two four-man squads that are trying to pull him apart. Danny is having to hold back pest control all by himself and just try to keep territory control going up over there. The other two members still just trying to deal with NA, and this is a very run and gun friendly squad. And you can see that Danny has so much pressure on him right now. He just has to keep punishing and denying, and yet another tree limb causing problems for these throwables.
You know what? When you're playing in this perspective, you gotta throw an FPP because the TPP throws can happen like that sometimes. Conf shutting it down. Danny, by the way, with that headshot. K-Mind will step on up. He spots out one. He spots out one of his fellow Canadians, but is not able to find the knock that he wants. Yappa will take Ega down as all three teams are drawing swords against each other. 2v2v2, Matt. And you can see a couple of these teams are trying to regroup and get players back on their feet, but I think Danny is a little too far away to be picked up by Pistolero.
Just too isolated at the time. Pest is going to have enough time to try to reset most of this. Keep in mind, Hot and Spicy is a little bit more isolated than the rest of the crew. Pistolero's got its own set of problems as New Gen All-Star is kind of continuing their hunt down right now. Looks like Blazer was trying to retreat, but nowhere to go. Joshy is going to finish up Danny, and it feels like Pistola is just kind of in the meat grinder right now. Just one player up, and Pest is taking control over all the positions that they wanted to play. It's high ground for Pest to the south, but still this nice little ridge line for our New Gen All-Stars to play from.
I've got a question, though. Have I walked into a time machine? Or are we in a late game in the Americas where you've got players like K-Mind, Finna, Shinboy? Like, what in 2020 are we watching?
Boy, we full NPL right now. Although it'd be interesting to see how this is going to line up. I mean, Hot and Spicy can still keep kind of feeding some information over. Is K-Mind going to go for him? That's kind of its own level of bait, and I don't know. K-Mind doesn't want to set up too much. EGA does spot out Josh. Comp does spot out Finna, though, so retaliation back on both sides. K-Mind, how good you going to cook it? Because if he can line up a lot of these tosses, he can set up something great for his squad.
Yeah, they're going to split NA, and that's the right thing to do, as another nade's going to get tossed, and that one could be very good as it lands beside EGA and finds 49 damage. Shinboy going for the res. K-Mine might be aware that's the case and should peek over that ridgeline, but he's a lot more focused on EGA. He's going to step up once more. Great spray from K-Mine, but there's still two New Gen All-Stars up and alive and in the fight. Finna going one way. Going the other way is Shinboy. He gets behind the tree, but K-Mine, he finds another, but man, only 29 rounds left to work with.
On the top of it, it's all Pest Control, taking control of everything. Now, still Blazers, he's going to get spotted out. Pest Control takes it all off of a great performance and push. And my lord, look at the amount of kills.
That was insane from Pest Control. They were just on the front foot from the first moment to the last. We saw good performances from the New Gen All-Stars as well, as they were able to pick up quite a few points in that one. But Matt, if that was a taster for what we're in store for tonight, we're going to be in for a really good night of PUBG.
Yeah, I mean, that was really cleanly played. I loved K-Mine's aggression into playing into EGA, I believe it was, on the other side of it. Realizing the fact that they have authority, you know the fact that the other player is probably going to be going for a res. So whenever they do that, that means that if it's a three-man situation, only one player can defend. So running right up, going into the face of EGA to make sure that they can get another knock, just switches it back over. It denies out any flow in that res, and so it just kind of isolated a lot of 1v1 style situations for them to set up.
Yeah, 29 points for Pest Control, though. That'll see them in a really good position going through to the rest of tonight. Remember, it's not just about the leaderboard tonight. It's about the constant leaderboard that will run over 5 weeks. And with them playing last week and them playing this week, games like that will help them with their path of trying to qualify for PAS. But what Matt and I are going to do is we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back in about 7 minutes time, we'll get ready for game number 2. We'll see you then. map down and 4 to go, and what a map it was, Matt. We saw Pest Control running amok with 29 points in the very first game.
I mean, you hit a great point on it. Whenever we have a continual leaderboard like that, how many times are you going to get almost a 30-point game, man? That is a massive score for them that's going to propel them and give them in a great position to kind of be a little bit more relaxed. And we know whenever you deal with somebody like K-Mind, a squad that can now play a little bit more relaxed, loose, and go for more kills is going to be really scary.
Yeah, K-Mind was phenomenal in that game, and I got to speak to him. I know you would have got to speak to him like loads of times at past events, but the first time I got to speak to him in person, he was coaching at PNC, and his words were, man, being here and seeing the players compete, it's getting the juices flowing again. He was like, he really wanted to get back into the mix, and he tried last year, right? We saw him competing. I think it was with Duel at the time, and it didn't really go. But it looks like the ring rust is gone now.
I mean, there is something kind of coming back into it, specifically if you're like just streaming PUBG, you know, you pick up some of the pros talk about it a lot is like, if you're just streaming a whole bunch, sometimes you pick up some, I guess, bad mechanical choices just because you're so used to being able to be showy and just be the best, right? So you kind of got to reconvene back, kind of pull back and reassess your risk-reward style situations and just kind of get back into the groove. But it feels like, yes, K-Mind, I mean, he's always been a phenomenal player. Never count him out.
And he was one of the players who was around way back when this game first came out and TPP was the only game mode. So he's, you know, he's really getting back into the groove. But we're going to turn our attention over to those dusty desert dunes. It's Miramar for game number 2. Another central flight path going just slightly north of Picado, finishing on the southern tip of Impala. But once again, every team should be able to get to their preferred drop spot. But I'm seeing a lot of heat activity in and around San Martin, particularly with Pest Control landing very close to San Martin and themselves and those athletes of Christ.
Looks like maybe just doing a long stretch going for a car. Maybe CEMT pull back over next to Power Grid. Wouldn't be surprised on that one.
Yeah.
Just good pacing coming out from Pest Control. And this is a little bit more of that, what I was talking about. Whenever you have a 30-point game, you can play a little bit riskier as we get a very southern shifted circle. I guess that's good given the fact that nobody's gone too far north. Alas, poor Oasis, we see you not.
Not yet. We'll get one, Matt. We'll get one this year when we're on the mic together. But for now, we'll see Los Leones, like circles like this. I'm not the sort of guy who likes predicting circles this early, right? Because it's, you know, it's all hearsay. You know, you'll say one thing, but they do tend to kind of go south of Los Leones when you get this circle.
I'm kind of with you. I don't like to predict circles too much. I've never been one of those that calls it, but whenever you see pattern, this whole resort pull that we see come in this direction tends to happen quite a bit. Either that or you get the Chuma pull to where it just goes south of Chuma. We more often than not don't see this go up to the northwest. In general, most of these players should be very familiar with the lay in the circle. As like, I mean, we see this kind of keeping some of the drumstick and Partona in circle quite frequently in the past year or so. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I kind of agree with you. If this pulls anywhere else except for that middle ground inside, it kind of maybe it's to the west, maybe to the northwest of where we see resort at. That tends to be the commonality that we see here. That said, if it goes west or if it goes to the east, there are some really cool potentials over there.
Oh, I love it. Like, the one thing I'll say about Miramar, I miss it being a 2-map-a-night map because I think that, I'll be honest, at the start, I was like a purist. I was like, I love Erangel. It's the first map. It's the map that's PUBG to me. But like, in the last 4 years, I just feel like this is the most well-rounded map in competitive PUBG.
I agree. And it provides a lot of opportunities. The way I've had a couple of people tell me about it is Erangel is kind of like the map that everybody learns on, but Miramar is what kind of starts letting you flex more. It's got a lot of these trenches. It's got a lot of like very high hilltop kind of setups to where you can rotate, and it's not quite as punishing as Erangel is. So whereas Erangel is kind of like the map that everybody starts on, Miramar is where you start to being able to flex your muscles and your strategy a bit more. And what we're now seeing is everybody taking that and going, well, what can we do on Erangel now? And that's kind of led to the evolution that we were talking about beforehand. Whenever we look at the terrain in the circle specifically, like Los Leones is kind of a dead zone, right? But if you go to the west, there are so many like ridges, valleys, footpaths that allow for so much more dynamic play, and it really is cool to see how each team can kind of take their own personalized approach in playing this map.
Yeah, and I think that you can see that the devs as well, when they're making updates to maps or releasing maps that are going into the competitive pool, they are going along that line of, well, you want to make terrain heavy maps. Like, yes, compounds should always be incredibly powerful, but you have to find a way to make parts of the map playable. Because, look, we've all seen the circles map where it's just nothing but a flat surface in the middle in the late game, and it's just like, yeah, whoever sticks their head up first is going to die. But, like, also, can we talk about how close that was to the perfect landing of a crate in the back of that truck?
I thank you. I was looking at it too, because I mean, we don't see that too often, and it is always fun whenever you see like random crate stuff. It's not like a crate on top of a building where you see all the players just kind of looking at it in sadness. This is more a style crate landing, right? It's not the double crate. The double crate is like the mythical rainbow that I never see.
You know what the only positive is? There was a good gun on it too. Like, say now that crate landed perfectly there, but there was a DBS in it, I would refuse to acknowledge that crate. Just never existed.
It's still pretty. I'll still take it.
Yeah. You know what I call the DBS as an Irishman, by the way? The dirty big shotgun.
Oh, that's so much nice. I can't say half the names for the guns that I use. As sometimes you'll see me casting, I'll be in the process of like about to do a call out, and I know what the players call most of these things.
Yeah.
Because of talking to them so much, and I'm like, oh, they're going to.
I had that
hill.
call out map. I had that call out map, and I had to stop using that call out map because, yes, like you said, players can say it, we can't, or else we wouldn't have jobs anymore. Anyway, the players who would never use, players who would never use words like that are the athletes of Christ. They only spread peace, positivity, love, and rounds of ammunition all around the map. And you know what? They're sitting in 6th place because they farmed kills over on the eastern side of the map whenever they were playing our Erangel. Looking at this circle, it's going to be similar again. They're going to have to play rough and ready from the edges, you know, fighting their way into the zone because they're way up to the north. And the circle's what? Maybe 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers south of them?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do a disclaimer, guys. I don't usually like to talk about these types of things, but I am a Christian. So if I'm making jokes about the team name Athletes of Christ, don't get offended. Don't think that I'm attacking your religion. Don't think anything else along those lines. I'm just here for the jokes too because they're fun.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat as you. Look, we're here to have a good time. As a wise man once said, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
That's right. Duel might be starting to feel that too, as they're starting to get pinched a lot of directions up to the north and to the south, but luckily they've got some patience and a couple of buildings they can be playing from. You can see most of the players, we were talking about it. You don't want to call the circle, but the players are also kind of calling the circle. Look at the way that this setup is already configured. Almost everybody's already south of Los Leones, or if they're in the circle yet.
Yeah, and it's like, you just think we said about how powerful that position is in and around Resort. X10 have gone all the way extreme to the southern coast, which, again, is a power position of itself. If you can get to the very edge and work your way up the hills using the terrain, you can find plenty of points on the way in. But it is a Miramar, right? We're 7.5, 8 minutes into the game, and you tend not to see an awful lot of kills. But I will say this, in this perspective, more so than in the old school PUBG, you do see a lot more players falling in rotation. So I'm surprised that we still have all 64 players up when you consider how many teams have already rotated into the circle.
Well, I mean, it's just a kind of the way that this section of Miramar sets, right? Is we've got the recessed hillside running down to the coast coming out from Los Leones, where we see Resort and all that other stuff at. But it also means the fact that there's a lot of independent fighting arenas. So there's all of these different ridgelines. Like whenever we look at Shinboy, and look at how he's looking across right now, there's a whole valley in between what he's looking at and the team on the other side. So this leads to either hilltop firefighting or firefighting in the lower sections from people that are already in those high ground points. It means that there's a lot of these little firefights that gives you a lot more survivability. A lot of the players actually do like this circle quite a bit on Miramar because it feels like it's an easier to approach circle than what we can see if it, say, goes north.
Yeah, Team KZito up on the hills compound, just having a look around as What It Takes begin moving this way. Sneak attack, Morin's putting pressure on, and Hooligan hitting some shots from way downtown for Tempest as well. But, right, I have a question. What It Takes are back in the lobby. If What It Takes manage to qualify for PAS finals, are they going to be the absolute pain in the butt for the Falcons that they always tend to be? Because they almost play the maps so similarly and have almost the same rotations as the Falcons like to make as well.
Yeah, that's great minds think alike kind of situation, right? There's a certain meta on approach on how you can handle a lot of these circles. So if you're always trying to make the mathematically best choice, sometimes it's the same choice that everybody else is making, and that creates its own set of problems. I don't know whenever we look at it. What it takes is a great squad, but the firing lines coming up are usually going to be the setup for it, right? Whenever we look at what it takes, do we think that they can go up against the Falcons? And they are pretty strong, but it feels like it's going to be kind of who gets the better of what situation at any given time. Who gets the early momentum at a couple of times. If what it takes is willing to sacrifice a couple of games to maybe make that happen, great. But it could also put them behind the ball if it goes wrong.
Yeah, and they already are behind the ball considering they didn't qualify last week. So they are in this is game week 1 for them, and it's game week 2 for 8 of the other teams inside this lobby. Circle shifted, Matt. Basically what we said it was going to do. South of Los Leones, lots of water in play. And I always love it when water becomes a factor on a map like Miramar.
Oh, and there's a crate down in the water way down to the south. If you're a believer in the crate lore, which hopefully we finally killed off, there was a very long period of time where people believed that wherever the crates went were the in-game circles, if you did not know.
That's an old one. That's a really old one.
I mean, if we're talking like MPL days, boy, these are the old school MPL conspiracy theories.
Man, I remember conspiracy theories, people like talking about, oh, you know, you look at the flight path and it always finishes like a click to the north of the center of the flight path. You're like, no, it doesn't. There was a while though when you knew where it was going.
I can point to this thing that happened twice out of 64 games, so therefore there's a continuous pattern. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Continuous pattern needing to come up in sprays right now, as it is going to be New Gen All-Stars rotating very close. Danny trying to unload. These guys bumping into each other 2 games now pretty early in a row, but it looks like New Gen All-Stars, they're going to keep on cutting it path. They want to keep on going, and there is some breathing room, but not much before they run into Injected.
I think the PUBG circle is the absolute definition of correlation doesn't mean causation. As we watch, you know, Tempest. That's one of my favorite phrases, by the way. But we watch Tempest. They're going to pull up Dad Buff and Klawe. They'll play just on the southern side of the circle. I think this is a good position for them to play, rotating all the way around from the edge. Looks like FE have made their way over here. Panella good. Pick-upping just south of those fields into Resort as well, but coming under a heavy fire here, and I don't think he's going to make it, and he won't. And he's down.
Can he get the cover? I mean, this is going to cut out some of the lines, but he took a lot of damage on that fall. New Gen All-Star is actually getting a very good compound for the circle, and that's just bait right there. If you go for it, you're going to get punished. Maybe, looks like TMP was thinking about trying to see if they could get a kill or 2 out of it, but I wouldn't want to do that given the fact of how many teams are kind of along this line. Went all the way down to the south close to dots, like you were kind of alluding to just a moment ago. Another, I think, emergency pickup is going to be coming in just 1 second, and that's going to be what we're looking at here with Nevermind, who I don't know where they can land in this. If they go east or northeast, maybe, but if they want to go for center circle, that's going to be real contested.
Yeah, I think they got to go as far east as they can. You know, get off the flight path. There's nowhere they can land on this flight path that's going to be safe. Shinboy gets that point confirmed, so picking that one up for the New Gen All-Stars. But the big one for me, Matt, is if you hold Resort now, you hold control of that E-pickup. Or not the E-pickup, but the recall station. So you hold that spot. You can be as aggressive as you like because you can just call your teammate back.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, I don't like playing Resort in this circle. It feels like it's safe until suddenly it's not. Here comes the speaking of it's safe until it's not. Oh my God, that was cruel and unusual. Lost just had no chance there.
Yeah, we said there was nowhere safe to go. Nobsky is going to be full blind as he dips into cover. The LFP is going to do some damage. He walks on in, and Nobsky gets that extra knock. Team KZito up to 2 kills now as they manage to catch 2 points onto Nevermind as they made that one. It's just Scatastico left playing. And do you think Scatastico is a fan of Santastico of Rock?
I don't know, because I've seen the name a couple of times. I feel like you've got to have some relation at that point. But apparently there is also like the play on Tastico is pretty common in the area that they're from. So it's going to be kind of like, you know, how we do like the X's and stuff like that at the beginning and the end of the name for a long time in the Xbox Live era. I hear it's kind of similar to that. So not super uncommon, but not the most common.
Yeah, it's like Zero is a very common for a
Yep.
lot of like Brazilian Portuguese players. You'll see a lot of zeros at the end of names. It's that same sort of thing. It's like a little thing people like to put in. But still, I'm a fan of Santastico. I think he's quite neat.
Yeah, he's a great dude too. I love anytime we get to interact with him. Although I will say, if you're gonna do an homage name to Santastico and do Scatastico, there are some allusions in the English language that might not necessarily be the best.
Beep, bop, bop, ba, da, bop. That's not
Oh
not
yeah,
the
I
one
was
you
totally
wanna.
talking about the music. I was talking about the music.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that at least you had armbands there when you threw yourself in the deep end.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you on that one. Looking out, I can see got 3 squads trying to get their way into the circle right now, and it's going to be injected trying to gatekeep them out. A lot of targets in front of them, and that's going to make it a bit more difficult. No need for a big push yet, but this area is going to be pretty open. Whenever we look at where injected's going to be at, and this is just well survived coming up from AFI. I was worried whenever he went for the flush that the information might not be that valuable, but apparently it is enough to stall out from where he's at. And here comes the returns.
Yeah, look at Morns in the kill feed, by the way. Big nade from him, but that'll be the push-up on over. Dad Buff will get one, but he's dealt with an AFI. Will secure at least a moment's reprieve, but they still got to work their way into the circle. But that's big from what it takes. 4 kills on the board off the back of a huge nade from Morns.
Yeah, I don't know how AFI can get past everything that's going to be going on in front of it. There's also the meat grinder that's going to be happening right in front of NA, its own independent problem. Duel should be able to at least get foothold, but remember we were talking about this earlier. It's going to be the athletes of Christ that they're going to have to deal with in their shack with the highest point in this circle, but that's the only problem with it is the fact that really Resort also has some vision in. See VR Pistolero taking some shots over into NA as there are 3 squads, potentially 4 that could be converging around NA. They have to be so careful right now.
Yeah, they've got to be careful. Elements are going to get wiped out, though, as we lose another team. Penta coming under fire here. Kane, is he able to find a knock as he tosses utility over towards Fana? But Fana will remain on his feet. Fire coming from way downtown, by the way. I think that's Fate that are putting shots in the duel from the other side. Wooly will just keep his eye on the hill above him, trying to wrap around, get that angle, but this is looking really dangerous for Duel here.
I mean, Duel just has to survive long enough for reinforcements to show up because they are coming up back behind it. Pistolero wants to try to get a piece of this one. Took a couple of shots into Athletes of Christ right on their backside, so that's caused them to spin back around. Duel takes the time to get their meds a little bit better off. Can they use the opportunity to counterpounce on this one, or are they going to flank around? You can see now Pistolola getting caught into that fight right now. It's getting very, very dicey as the aggressors suddenly found themselves pounced between 2. They're going to go down. Pistola going to be fine with what they managed to do, but is Duel going to continue the hunt?
Yeah, and they're trying to get control of the northern section because this shift goes right on top of Resort as well. So these teams need to deal with each other before they can focus on crashing X10, who are still the only people currently vacationing inside of Resort. But you'd imagine that those rooms are going to see some high occupancy in the next few minutes. As we said, Duel though, stuck between 2. Zenny peeks on up and he's going to get one. Does a little bit of damage the other way as the admin, that's what I'm calling by the way, that's Zenny, the admin, is going to get a lot of fire off. But Duel are in a really tough spot now, and that's going to open up even more opportunities.
Some shots at Fate earlier, so this is a bit of a counterplay coming back behind them. Duel's going to go down, but it's a very weakened squad now from Piero Pistolero that's been taking some shots for so long. They have to deal with Fate that could be coming up back behind them. In the thick of the firefight, New Gen All-Stars still have all of their players up trying to deal with TQ right on top of them. Casito down to just 2, though, and whenever I say on top of them, I mean literally on top of them, as it is a dance on top of the buildings and shots. Balefrost just trying to see if they can take care of whoever's on the roof.
Nobsky with a level 3 helmet and vest, though, is going to give him a bit more bravery to peek on over and a bit of a security blanket in that fight. You can see Shinboy is going to whip out the Sean off to put some work in as Team KZito are wiped out by the New Gen All-Stars. 8 kills for them now as they move into 2nd place on the leaderboard. Viejo Pistolero, 8 or 9 kills for them as they move on in, but Shinboy will shut out Danny, and Viejo with 1 player left alive, and he is being hounded by the New Gen All-Stars, and I feel like Blazer ain't going to be long for the world, and he ain't.
That was just a sheer denial in rotation. Continuing, kill counts climbing up for NA at 11 right now. That's going to buy them some passage into Resort if they want to go for it. They know that they are pretty much the kings of the North and the West right now, so they've got tons of area to play from. X10's been hunkered down inside of Resort for quite a while, and really New Gen All-Stars don't have to go quite yet, but X10 got a good angle into that building, so well done in defense so far, but nobody's really made the commitment into Resort just quite yet.
Look, X10 have essentially been vacationing here on Miramar inside of Resort with how little work they've had to put in this lobby so far. 2 kills is all they've been delivered because nobody's pushing the building. And this is the problem, right? It's kind of very similar to what we used to see years ago in all of the old, EU, the E-United, Luminosity. They would play really good center circle compounds and the kills would eventually come to them. But for X10, nothing's coming their way. Maybe now in the very late game they can finally start getting some points on the board.
Yeah, they're going to have to find it because it's all around them. There's an opportunity. Wit even took care of pest control down below them, so they have to be a bit careful. Wit can get some angles and get some damage back, but really the high ground is so dominant in this position. The way that the circle is set, and it continues to stay into the north, so everybody is being funneled right into X10. X10, do you still stay in this wide defensive approach to try to deny out any form of approach into it? Or do you start to bulk up and really start to shore in your defenses?
Well, there's nothing to their north. It's completely clear. The only teams that are still in the lobby are all southern focused inside the circle. So X10 can really start looking this direction. And I think the problem for them is because of the terrain, they're at real risk of maybe winning this map, but not picking up an awful lot of points. Like NA already have 11 kills and top 5 guaranteed. And maybe even more because they've regrouped. They've got everybody back on their feet. And as you can see, Matt, they can still play the southern edge and only really have to focus on one team. But look at Shinboy getting felled by Franz and Klausera as they eventually get that angle for the second time onto NA.
Yeah, Wit was trying to go for some shots onto the other side of it. So really it's about how Wit and NA want to dance around to the south. You can see that Fate to realize that the defenses to the north for X10 are pretty weak. They're already starting to send somebody over there to see if they can kind of creep around. This is the problem if you're trying to go for these kills at the stages. Everybody's gotten really close. And the way that these cliff spacings, it's like a 5-foot little cliffs that drop down. Tons of people can kind of hunker in. You just have to survive the run across, which is difficult, as you can see. Good shots coming up, as it's going to be EGA that does go down there. But can they get over and try to go for the res on it? I think that they will be able to.
Yeah, they're going to do their best anyway. NA have been working on it. Good gets deleted by Nzito, by the way, as it's a 4v4v4v1. Morns moving up now, but this is such a hard fight to take with that UMP. All you can see is the head, and unfortunately for you, SMGs do not do v4v4. What it takes, v4v4. What it takes, Marsus moving up, but now look at how steep that terrain is. None of these players can really get an angle on each other without pushing up to that next level. Klausera's bringing the fight to Marsus, though. Does he seem aware of the fact that Klausera's rapping? He knows now. He spots him out, but it's too late. Klausera gets another one. Huge extension from X10 and reaping the rewards of bravery.
Tater on the other side of this one. Looks like they're starting to prep up. If X10 isn't careful, they might be walking into a kill box that's being set up by their own Nox. Wit just starting to get punished. Nades going in. It looks like it is going to be Fate trying to see if they can get some assistance or at least some kills on it. Wit just nowhere to go on one side of it. So Team Fate now starting to line up against X10. It's a 2v4 with one member of Wit still alive.
Yeah, and it's the last member standing. Sneakers Morin, sorry, with that UMP, but Fate are starting to wrap around the other side as well. They got 2 players back on their feet. Remember, at one point there was 1 player left, and Zenny and Tater have created their smoke wall, and they are going towards Kalnix. He is the target, the solo for X10 to the north, while the rest of the team are focused. And look at those shots from Kalnix.
At least enough shots coming out on Fate's side to force him onto a different angle, but the high ground on smoke is so complicated to deal with. Look at the crossfire already being set up by X10. That's giving Wit a little bit more time to get their feet back underneath them. The sneak attack is going to get rezzed. So a little bit of teamwork going on between these 2 different squads to kind of start pulling X10 in different directions, but not going to matter. Klausera gets a knock on 1. Sneak attack gets a counter knock. Finally, Wit goes down, but that is going to be 2 members down. It is a 1v2. Kalnix trying to see if he can set up. Already spotted out. The last solo still remaining. X10 should be able to pick it up quite easy.
Yeah, and 14 kills in the end, 25 points. And remember, Matt, about 5 minutes ago, they had 2 kills. This is what we spoke about. Very similar to what we used to see from the likes of E United and Luminosity. Play a very good position in the center circle, in a compound, and just wait for the kills to come to you. I think... Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, whenever I look at Resort, it's often been so hard to deal with, but I think it might be because I'm thinking about it from an FPP perspective versus a TPP perspective on their defense. So this is well done by X10, but on the other side of it, nobody really kind of stepped up against him for it for a long time, because I think that everybody was just hoping that it would pull away from Resort for so long.
Yeah, and I think that the way it conspired too, with how evenly spread the teams were around it, they were all fighting each other. You know, they weren't really given the opportunity to push in towards X10, and I'll give them credit. How easy is it, Matt, when you're in a position like that, to get too aggressive whenever you've been there for 10, 15 minutes and nothing's happened, and you can try get maybe itchy feet and it can cost you victory. So massive credit to them too for showing the patience that they did.
I mean, consistency coming up big for him. Look at this. Now tied up with Pest Control. Pest Control had a massive first game and ended up right underneath of X10 in Resort very early. Got punished and kicked out of it pretty early. So that means that good plays coming up from X10 in the last 2 games are really good. But I agree with you. X10, trigger discipline is really hard, especially whenever you're holding a 4-man split like they were doing for so long. Respect where respect's due. X10 played that beautifully and patiently to make sure that they kept their eyes on the in-game result.
Yeah, and then we see, look at the rest of the leaderboard. Never mind not getting on the board yet, but unfortunately for them, I feel like they just got unlucky. You know, they left the rotate too late. By the time they did the pickup, there was nowhere they could go, and they got shut down for it. But I think what we should do, Matt, is jump into a very quick break. We'll be back in about 7.5 minutes. Let's see how accurate that is, and we'll be ready for the next game of the night. We'll see you in a few. 7.5 minutes later, I hope you did time it because we were bang on the nose with that one. Matt and I are back for game number 3 of the night. And Matt, 2 games down, has seen 2 really big performances from completely different teams. And it just means that it's getting very tough for maybe some of the teams on the wrong side of the leaderboard to start climbing.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of smart plays, but we've also seen some very hard-shifted southern circles, which can lead to I got a chase to just try to get positionals, especially whenever we look at the fact that this lobby is a bit more diverse, right? You were talking about this at the start. It's not exactly the exact same as it was. It's not exactly the exact same. It's not the same as it was last week. So whenever we're looking at that, it means the fact that you always are having to adjust to where people are going to be dropping, where the rotations are going to be coming through. It makes it very, very hard to read. So whenever you get these southern shifted circles happening back to back to back, it makes it to where you're just kind of playing rough. You don't know exactly who's going to be in front of you, and you have to make some very difficult choices, and a couple of squads are suffering due to that.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, it's another change of location. At the end of the day, it's a 5 map rotation, 2 Erangels on the night, and then we go to Tego, Miramar, and Rondo once each. So we're going to Tego this time, and it's another flight path that is almost going through the center of the map here, Matt. And again, I think the players are getting treated pretty well so far on the night.
Yeah, I mean, yes, with early circles on plane path, then the follow-up circles just don't feel like they're very conducive unless you're starting south. Early rotators are going to be big, but whenever we're looking at this Cup Series, right, it's a lot of teams that are still trying to build synergy, that are really just trying to cement in better play styles. There is a lot to be learned from having to deal with faster loots, faster rotates. So this is kind of a very fast breeding ground for exponential growth if you can learn it fast. I'm just hoping that maybe we don't go south this time. Maybe we get something a little bit more fancy up to the north. I'm a bit spent on the swamps around Hosan Prison.
It's not my favorite part. I don't like playing there myself when I'm in the map either. So, look, I actually really like the hills north of Godok. I think it's a fun area whenever you get circles that go up towards the north. And I know that the likes of Dots and NA will be really hoping that's the circle that we are going to get. But we'll wait another 2 seconds and we will find out where zone number 1 is. And it's pretty much just north of Terminal. And I did a video once, Matt, where I spoke with Shrimsy about this map in particular and about how Terminal teams play it. Look, we'll talk about it later because we got a hot drop.
Lukewarmish drop is what it feels like right now. Is Athletes of Christ are just trying to find something to work around, and it is going to be PNG. Does have one of their members go down quite early, already flashed out, and it's just kind of like a damage control style situation that we're looking at over here. It's just trying to get yourself back as fast as you can. Hosan is a city that's going to be right on the edge of the zone, but also has pest control pretty close, so you really can't leave too easy. There you go. Problems are going to continue to mount out.
Yeah, Zuki from Viejo Pistolero was able to find a knock as well. Like, as you said, you got Viejo Pistolero, Pest Control, Panella Good, and to an extent, Zenny from Fate, all not too far away from each other. Now, Blazer from Viejo is going to peek out through the side. Remember, in the early game, that UMP is just deadly in these situations. There's not a lot of loot to go around for both of these teams either. So once helmets start getting spent and you start seeing medkits fall, it's an issue. Like, look at Blazer. Got no meds in reserve, no helmet, no vest, but he does have a UMP and he does have hardcover that can be very important for him.
Yeah, the hardcover is going to be a bit more open as he starts crawling on the balcony itself, so he has to be cautious on that. Pest already has themselves a great way to counter any peaks. As you can see, Conf already up on top of the roof. Looks like they're going to try to get a better loot situation, or maybe just a regroup going on. Pest Control in control over the southern area, doesn't have to move too much. So it's going to be on Pistola on how they really want to navigate this. I think it's just going to be about seeing if maybe you can pick apart the stragglers that are a bit more separated if you're Pest Control. And that looks like what they're doing. A lot of damage, I believe, already going on to Yappa.
Yeah, Joshy peeking through the window as well, trying to get information on where those 3 Viejo Pistolero players are whipping around inside this compound. But they're in no real rush to leave their spot. And that plays into the hands of Pest Control, who can surround them a little bit more. Remember, all the loot is limited, and I like this move from Zuki. Get up onto that roof. You've got cover when you get there, but it just gives you more of an angle too. But Timfy is about to peek over the ridgeline very soon as well here, and he might just get a nice angle onto the roof, but no, the trees are just about blocking him out.
Well, this is the second player from Team Fate that we've seen kind of dancing around the outskirts of this. Is I think that he's just trying to keep an eye to see if he can steal a kill or anything else like that. Viejo Pistolero, you were talking about, they're 3 up inside of one building. So their loot that they've got is decent, but notice the ammo reserves. When you're having to split up that much inside of one building, there's just not enough to give you tools to really work with. So every bullet has to be near as perfect as possible, and you can't take damage. You look at the med situation, there's nothing to be had. You have to win this firefight. Pest managed to drop at least in a couple of buildings and has some more space to work with as far as loot and ammo concerns go.
Yeah, and Zuki reloads to his last 15 rounds, and you saw that K-Mind only had bandages, and that's what he had to just get himself back up to as high as he could. So as you said, every single bullet is going to matter in a situation like this. And the thing is, the longer this takes, the more likely a team like Fate, who are fully kitted and looted and suited and booted, could move in and cause an extra problem for them. So Pest Control are going to wrap out the backside of this building, but they're running directly towards Fate, and they got to be so careful.
I think that they saw the cars. Here comes the new friend's going to be approaching, because remember, this is right on the edge of the zone, so a lot of stop-off points right on the other side of this hill. Teams could be looking for as cars can continue to stack over here. Fate instantly pounces on this one, but that is beautiful for Pest. They heard those shots now and realized they were walking into a death trap and now have to turn around.
Yeah, that's just perfect timing. Like, you're trying to bail out to the south and you hear a player die just beside you, and it's like, yeah, maybe we'll focus more on what is just ahead of us as Conf. We'll just be the conduit of information for his team. He'll see them all move off into the distance, and I think that frees him up now to go secure that UAZ if he elects to do so. Other than what's been going on here, not much else has happened.
Yeah, we've seen a bit of separation happening on the other sections of the map. We do have Athletes of Christ that might wrap similar to what we're looking at with TQ, kind of close to Fate on one section of it, also pretty close to this whole firefight. The only real people that are extremely bad off right now are Viejo Pistolero. They just want this to end. They want really Pest Control to go for a vehicle, just go away. They just want to leave this, try to get a better loot spot, because this isn't even like a phenomenal loot spot for 2 squads to be at. This is going to be very low economy for them.
Yeah, it's like you put, like, the thing is, the longer it lasts, the worst case they're going to be. But we'll turn our attention over to the Gringo here from Panella Good as he'll fall back, coming under heavy fire from Fate, down to 4 singular health points. That ain't good for him. Elsewhere around the map, we're seeing Sneak Attack put some real work into NA. That's a bridge camp that's happening just on the edge of Yongchon as NA tried to make their way across. But Gringo now turns his attention to Timothy as they move off into the distance, and we'll check on in with what's going on here in the world's most lukewarm hot drop.
Just staring at each other. Other one side of this one, you can see is What It Takes has some friends very close. They're just trying to harass them, keep control over this. They're going to be right along the bridge area over into as far north as we see anybody playing. Nobody's playing on the island to the northwest of it, except for really Wit that was trying to cross right now, and it's getting pretty good so far. They've got that crossfire set up, and it's nobody else is going to be coming after it, but hey, picked up 3 points. You got to feel pretty good about that one. Maybe.
Yeah, 3. They'll do well to get 4 here. I don't think it's happening, and I think Beal is doing the right thing. Just go to the north, get loot, wait. Never know, you might get a circle shift or 2. Worst case scenario, you can go all the way north and rotate into the circle, because you know for a fact that nearly all of the teams in this lobby are just going to concentrate their efforts on the southern side of that zone with the way it plays out.
Well, I mean, if you're NA right now, if you're Balefrost, what you're hoping is the circle goes down into the southeast, and then Balefrost can run back over there, try to get the blue chips, try to go for a res back in Yongchon, and then just reset it all. If this stays centered, that strategy is going to go firmly awry, and nothing really can do. He's just going to be solo, trapped over here by himself, because I don't know if he had time to pick up any of the blue chips on that cross.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. I think that he's going to be all by his lonesome, but we'll keep an eye on the map feed and let you know the movements of Beal. But you see this, right? K-Mind has still got not much. He's got a smoke. He's got some meds, but that Bolty, that K9, is going to be a real problem for Viejo Pistolero. Like, I think Viejo, the move that they're doing right now, they couldn't really do it earlier, but it's still so late in the grand scale of things.
I mean, it's at least getting out. If they can
Yeah.
get out of this without losing anybody, that is a massive victory. Well read off the way that the hills are going to work. Unless it's just a beautiful shot coming up from K-Mine. We know he can hit those, but he just doesn't feel like it's even worth it. He doesn't have a lot of ammo to work with either, so keeping it just in case something goes wrong whenever they go for their next rotate is not a bad idea. As a bike, the preferred mode of transportation, because there's nothing else around here.
It was probably the only mode of transportation whenever K-Mine first came into the world, right? Like, he's pretty used to that. But I think for me, the problem that these teams are going to have now is getting loot and getting supplies, right?
Yeah.
Like, what options do they have? You could go to Hosan and kind of ride out the blue in phase 1, phase 2 for a little while and get yourself some goodies there. But you're not going to, unless you're getting kills, there's not much opportunity to get looted from this point on.
I mean, you can see that Pistola they did a quick stop off at the 4-pack that's just to the east of where they're at, like at the crossroads east of them. And now we're just trying to set up to see if they can go somewhere else. I wouldn't be surprised if they stop at the next 4-pack that's right on the edge of the zone. It looks like they're already trying to wrap over there, maybe doing a quick stop off around camp just to get a little bit more loot. Pest Control, they have a couple of scavenge positions that they can play, but nothing's going to feel really good as this circle is mostly fields. It's got this hillside that's very, very strong. PNG's pretty close to the point they can play from, but everybody else is going to be kind of playing scraps or already in position.
Yeah, you're essentially just, I suppose, hunter-gatherers now for the rest of this game, and maybe you can get a backfill on a gunfight. Looks like there's a bit of action here over on the other side of the circle as Wooly is going to hold his own AFI. I see a P90 there in the hands of Mizbo, though, and that's going to be a problem for Wooly. One goes down. Penta picks up the other side. This is really bad now as it's just one player left for AFI. Penta spots the Lodi going inside, tosses the stun grenade inside, but he manages to escape as the Lodi will fall and Duel hold their own, and they should get Wooly back on his feet as well. And you know what, for Duel? That ain't bad. Wooly got just enough damage and held up just enough time to allow Penta to flank and put in the real work.
Oh, but it threw off their timing. It looks like they were trying to go for another compound, and maybe Dots was just a little bit ahead of them. So it's going to force Duel to go back to where they were beforehand. It's just, that's kind of the way the nature of these beast like fights go, is just a second or two is going to be too much. Iroh in a lot of trouble now. This is a pretty open terrain in front of him. If anybody goes for a couple of these little scattered shots, he could be in some trouble, but it looks like he is going to get there just narrowly. Hear the shots hitting his bumper as he just barely makes it in.
Yeah, and now you've got these two compounds that essentially become, I guess, nightmare neighbors from hell. So basically what you got to do is have a gentleman's agreement where, yes, I'll watch one side, you watch the other, but if you turn your back to me for a second, I will plunge a knife in it and try get a kill onto you. So keep an eye on what goes on there for a while, because they don't want to waste too much ammo going back and forth, but it's kind of all they have to play. Like, when you look at the circle and what's available, it was the best that was open to them. And injectors are rocking up here in the terminal as well as they play by the markets. And I think for them, they got to be careful, because do they know that X10 are rocked up in the middle, and that could be a problem as time goes by, because X10 are in full snake mode.
I mean, if I am Injector, I just assume that this is already super camped. I mean, it's terminal. We know that people drop here. It's already pretty good in the circle, especially given the fact that there's less and less compounds that are available outside of terminal and the hillsides that you can play for some dips. You just have to play right on the edge, say that this is safe enough, and hope that nobody crashes you, because that is the kind of problem that we can see Injector playing, and that's why X10 is set up in the defense. You can see they're playing a bit recessed, so that way if Injector does actually move in, or Injected, sorry, actually moves in, they can be instantly punished. So if somebody rolls up, tries to take Injector's spot, then they're going to be in a ton of trouble, as they're going to be instantly pinched.
Yeah, and you have to remember too that these players, despite looking like they're not doing much, they'll be monitoring the kill feed, they'll be trying to work out what teams are nearby based on gunshots, knocks, kills, and the drop spots. Because at the end of the day, Matt, these teams know who drops where. And the really clever players, like the really good ones, could literally look at a map, look at a circle, and tell you what teams will be where when the circle pops. And, well, the real question is, where are these teams going to go now with that one, with a ton of rice fields in that circle?
I mean, you've got the western coastline that's got a couple of dips that you can play from it. Maybe try to keep your car secure, because that's what a lot of teams are still going to be playing for, is they want to try to keep their vehicles. The problem with these fields and the way that they're set is, yeah, there's those little dips and paths that you can still just try to hunker down in, but there's still the hillside next to where PNGs is playing from. that has some verticality to see down what's going on. And also to the north, there's another hillside just to the northwest of Terminal that is incredibly strong that I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wit start playing from in a moment. It's going to be a very low ground versus high ground, and the high ground guys are going to be absolutely feasting.
Odasaka, come on. Like, you can't be doing that to your teammate as you crash into this compound that LFP are in, and you've really put yourself behind the 8-ball. That looks like a good bit of utility tossed in. If that's a blue zone lead, that could be a real problem for them. And Spectro's forced into the corner as Maya will peek out from the side and confirm that. Oh my god, that nade was perfect as well. Dots have got themselves in so much trouble.
Yeah, this is just very cleanly played. Not going for too much. Finally realizing they've got the numbers advantage. Doesn't want to give time for any rises. Long Ray is just going to be the guy that's kind of leading in. Wants to make sure that they secure. Nobody's going for the res yet, so just time it out. Look at the utility being dropped on just to be safe. Doesn't even want to go for the full commitment down the stairs, as it is going to be double up from Dots in the low ground, and it is just going to be swarming a ton of elements on top of them.
Yeah, and the question is, what way are Dots going to set up? Because you know that they're going to throw lots of, resources at this problem just on that south side of Terminal. But I think if your elements, you've got to clear it up. You've got the numbers, you know they're below you, you want to get rid of them so that if another team comes later on, they're not something that you have to worry about. So Spectro and Odasaka, will it work? Will that sawn off be a problem?
Duel was taking a couple of shots, and he's going to use this opportunity to sneak in. Smokes are out. Spectro steps away from the side on one, does get the knock. Couple of shots go after Spectro, but he manages to keep himself upright. That's all he needs to do. Keep the press up and force them to go for some new angles of approach, because as long as you can control, it's great. Blue zone nades coming out, gonna stall it, gonna make it even more complicated, and now Elements swarming around the outside. Has to be careful of Duel to the south.
Oh, Odasaka, you've ran over your own teammate, and now you've blown up another one. Spectro is knocked, and you're gonna have to go for that res inside. Elements are down to a 3, but Spectro back up on his feet once more. Nade tossed towards the counter, but the counter itself will eat up all the shrapnel. Lucas now will step inside, pre-firing the corner, letting them know what's happened. They're in the other side of the smoke. You're jumping and dancing over each other. Odasaku, he just shoots everybody who comes in front. Spectro sees him back up to the barrel of his gun. He takes down KPN, and suddenly it's Maya, the last player standing. And this is about as bad a clear of a compound as I've seen in a long time. And here's Balefrost. Why is he here as he catches out Spectro?
And you can see Dots was utterly confused. Balefrost, I think, was listening in for something, because that ran right in front of him. And now it's just gotten all awkward. This is kind of a solo duel between Dots and Balefrost, last one up. The circle is popped, and it's finally moved away from Terminal. But, I mean, Bale's just kind of stealing whatever tools he can to survive.
Oh, man. Like, Balefrost has just completed a heist. Like, this was a 4v2. And now it's a 1v1v1 because Bale just rocked on up, got himself one. Odasaka has, like, I've seen him team knock 2 of his teammates and get 2 kills on top of it, 2 knocks on top of it onto other players. Like, this is as messy as I've seen. And the worst thing is, Matt, the circle is shifted away from here.
Well, I mean, it was so smoke-ridden. I feel a bit bad for KPN because he went down and they were just trying to spray to look for the person that was hiding inside the room that got the knock onto him. And he ends up going down to a mix of friendly fire as well as everything else. Athletes of Christ now making their push. They're going to be right on top of TQ, but TQ is doing a good job. 2 players still up, trying to make sure that they keep themselves just alive inside this trench. And that's going to be about the way we're going to be looking at the rest of this game. Anything that can keep you alive is going to be massive, as it is just a spattering of teams hiding everywhere.
Oh my god, Robert just about got out of there as the blue zone spread his way, but now Fana is going to fall because that blue... Oh my god, he just about got that off in the tick of time. Fana, 17 HP now. He has been the one for Athletes of Christ over the last year. Whether they're Mira, whether they're Athletes of Christ, he always puts in the work. Pest control after a huge game 1. Games 2 and 3 have been a lot quieter. Maya finally gets the last kill on Odasaka of Dots, but look at the chip damage the Blue's doing, and Balefrost is just going to wait, and eventually you'll see Bale's name come up in the kill feeds.
Look at this. Pinta is just demolishing people all by himself over here. Got himself the P90. Nade, is he going to read where Hugh goes? I don't know. I don't think that's going to roll quite far enough. So Now, what do you do? Position revealed. Got another nade prepped. It looks like just a couple throwables between them. Iroh's going to come over low ground defense. That's going to be enough. So that's a great play over there. That secures them a much easier control over the southeast.
Oh my, and now with that BRDM, that's going to be a huge boon to the chances of Team KZito. 5 points on the night so far for them. Why did he get out? Why did Robert get out?
I mean, who doesn't expect the random mortar right on top of your head? I'm kind of shocked that a follow-up hasn't come through. Oh, it went a little bit too far. I guess they were expecting him to crawl. Dad did some damage. Is there a third one to follow it? Nevsky, I mean, balls of steel, man. He's like, nah, I'm keeping my boy in this. I'm going to res.
Yeah, and Timothy, he's dealt with here by Danny. Pistolero Viejo have been doing pretty good this last couple of maps of picking up some points as well there on the south side of the circle. Zuki likely unresable, but here comes a flanker driving right at Danny. There goes flanker. Stopped driving at Danny because he shut him down, and that leaves just one member standing for Team Fate. And I think that's Zenny wrapping around the edge of the blue.
Throwing whatever he can in the direction. Dante, not going to really get anything that he wants out of it. It looks like he's already kind of read that as well, hoping that maybe the blue zone nades get him to step away from cover, but not going to give enough. The high ground is now gone from these circles as we've moved just into the patties themselves. That means that this is just going to be like low ridge line firefights galore between everybody, and it's going to be very weakened squads trying to make their approaches in. Your Pistolero wants to try to get any reses that they can, but Zenny is just
He's
on a
behind
hunt.
you.
But Duel is coming on from the other side. If he's not careful, he's entirely vulnerable from their angle. There's just nowhere for him to go. He's going to get spotted out, and that's Duel continuing the rampage.
Yeah, Zenny was just trapped. Well and truly trapped there. He tried to make a play, and I'll never, ever give a player abuse for trying to make a play, but unfortunately for him, it was never going to work out. What it takes. They're using the polytunnels here as cover in the circle. This is not a basketball. We actually had an ending here last week, Matt, in a circle just like this, but Enzito, he'll hold his own, plus he's going to fall from injectors as they look to make their way inside the circle, and what it takes will look to be the gatekeepers. And I think what it takes are actually okay because of the fact that it's a bunch of solos and duos to their south, so they're not likely to take on this forward-man team.
Well, it's all going to be about how Injected wants to handle this. You can see we just lost one of their members in Simplicity. But the other players, these are the strong squads, right? To the southeast, we've got PNG that's pretty strong right now. X10 making into the later stages yet again, consistency staying strong. But oh man, Wit just does not let Injected get away with anything.
Yeah, they're starting to really heat up here. 18 points so far, 7 kills on this map as they have now moved themselves into 5th place with a chance of picking up even more. 9 teams left alive, and I think it's just them and X10 who've got 4 players standing. As you can see, so what it takes in X10 are the only teams with a full complement of players. Shout out to Nevermind, by the way. 0 points going into this map, 3 kills on the board for them, and they find themselves pretty close, pretty much bang on center of this circle, and they're hoping they're center of the next one too.
Never mind the last couple of games. These guys finally starting to get something rolling over here. And they're going to continue to get that circle of love. Duel's going to be right on the quarter of it to the south. To the east, that's just going to have to be some type of firefight that's going to happen. PNG, I don't know where you can even go. But look at Bale. He's right back behind X10 and letting him clear the way for him.
I love it. Bale has done... You know when you're a solo player, early on, your job is salvage. Salvage as many points as you can. If Bale survives another team out, he's gotten himself a placement point, he's gotten himself a kill. It's what you need to do. He could get his team above pest control if he just survives 2 more teams out. That's how easy it is, but that might happen sooner rather than later because Duel and Viejo Pistolero are both fighting it out here, Matt, over trying to get into the slither of the circle. On the sliver, I should say, not sliver.
Look at this. Blazer's starting to try to cross one side of this one. Shots are going to go over into Dante, but the way that the smokes are set, Blazer really can't do too much on it. Pintle is going to go down. That's going to be the nade from Blazer. And now Iroh, very isolated over here, has to be cautious. Steps around on one side. Beautiful shots to get the knock. Starts playing the other side of the smokes. It's just him and Blazer's playing it way more passive, wanting to play this one as slow as possible. See if maybe he can creep over next to his friend. See if he can get a res. Try to get some more smoke outs. Try to just survive is only goal he's got.
Iro's got the high ground, but the problem is the smoke is great cover for Viejo Pistolero as they will go for that res inside the zone. Looks like Penta's crawling this way. Balefrost, he steps up, he manages to find one knock, but he doesn't get the kill confirmed, so he doesn't get them into second place. But keep an eye, that kill might just work. That nade, it's perfect! Bang goes the nade, and down goes Pistolero. What a nade from Iro.
Man, Iro and nades, he knows how to cook them so good. X10 in a very dominant position over into the east. Now going to have to start dealing with Wit, getting closer and closer by the second. Never mind dealing with all the contestants that are going on into the north as everybody's just trying to find some pathing into this, some form of safety, and Nevermind has to defend the center as much as possible. Great nade coming out. Gonna force TQ to play the other side and have to move away from Nevermind's angle as well. This makes him vulnerable to X10 though.
Yeah, Robert's going to go prone in a bush now as he tries to hide Watulin's here, by the way, for Nevermind. Trapped in the center of the circle, but he's good for now. Team Casito are dealt with as Gringo will find that kill. 5 teams left alive now. Duel back up to a 2. 10 kills for them so far as they're on a bit of a climb here on Tego as well. And Penta knows with that P90 at the ready, 50 rounds quickly to go, those 2 members from Penella Good could be wiped off the face of the map pretty quick.
But notice this third positional coming up from Penella Good. This is great. This is the last bit of high ground, so a lot of information. He's feeding that over to the other 2 players, already realize the fact that Duel is going to be very close to him. Even if he goes down on this point, he's going to give a lot of maneuverability positions for his team to know how to play from, but they have to survive the closer range threat in Duel. Wit running a little bit of a 2-2 split, getting pretty close to Nevermind right now. Has to be cautious. X10's on the other side of it. What it takes, just coming in full on gusto. They want to get control over center, but they have to be careful. The supervision coming up from X10 could spell their doom.
Yeah, you can see the flames starting to really burn out their chances, and this is a good angle here from Zito. He will find one. Watulin's still standing on the other side of it as Laguinha will work to get his health back up, but more shots from the far side of what it takes. Just getting down to 1 HP, and Zito didn't quite spot out Watulin's, who does a little bit of damage, but this looks like it could be curtains here for Nevermind. Another one falls, but there's Iro, third partying, doing Nevermind a favor.
Just spots it out at range while they're still dealing with PNG. Iro just trying to see if he can pick up a couple of extra kills over here because it's still pretty close. Duel in more and more trouble. Nade's now starting to connect. PNG finding the angles, trying to find a way just to survive right now, but it's going to be Wit that gets control over the center of the circle. Iro now by himself. X10 getting closer and closer to Wit, and it's still PNG all on top of Duel's last player.
X10 still with 4 players up, hoping that they can give the rest of the lobby an X10 crisis as they look to move in and get another win back-to-back. But there's still a lot of work to do. 4v4v2. Klausera looks up over the edge now as X10 move right up close and personal with what it takes. Nades at the ready here for Franks. Can he land it perfectly? It goes maybe a little bit too far to do any real damage to Sneak, but Sneak has got that BRDM, and that's going to be great cover for him.
X10 has to be cautious. PNG's angle of approach is going to be right on their alley, and that means that what it takes just has to continue to hold this northwestern side of this hill. As long as they don't allow PNG or X10 to cross it, these guys are going to have to deal with each other at some point, and that's what it takes once to play around. They want to climb up right now. Still, 12 points back behind X10 off of just consistent performances on the day. PNG is the X factor that can spell the doom for X10 if they're not careful.
Yeah, PNG wrapping in, though. You can see the circle is closing pretty quick, and they've got themselves essentially on the same field now as X10. What it takes now, holding center circle. Once more, Penella Good need to work their way in. X10 need to work in, and look at that for an angle through the leaf. But, well, it's a hay bale, sorry, and the hay bale giveth, the hay bale taketh away. The bullets can't quite penetrate it, and that is just on a huge favor for X10.
If they continue to play this passive, X10 will love it because they can strike a little bit further into the circle. If they can find vulnerabilities in Wit's defense right now, because Wit can't stop them from playing. The problem with Wit's defense is there is a crossroad that runs between them, so they have to crest the top to reinforce each other, while the X10 and PNG side of this is just one open corridor. So if PNG goes down, X10 has so much more maneuverability to Wit on the other side of that. And I think that Wit reads that. That's why they're running this 2 split across.
Oh, great headshot. 96 damage found there on the Gringo. And now they're just going to try to blow up the UAS, knowing that the explosion of that vehicle could be what it takes to blow Penella Good out of the circle. Speaking of what it takes, they're doing the right thing. They're letting these two teams go into a bit of a resource war, and it means that what it takes will be fresh, ready to deal with them as time moves on. But Santi Hero is going to move that little bit closer, and does he know that he's leapfrogged? Poor Sneak Attack. Yeah, Sneak Attack falls back. That's the right... I was worried for Sneak that because he got leapfrogged, he could get caught isolated. He did the right thing, and he's regrouped with the rest of the team.
This does open up a vulnerability for Wit to play the other side of this. Look at how aggressive and heavy we're seeing on one area of this. Meanwhile, back behind all of it, it's going to be Marcis. Waiting to see how much a bait can happen in front of him, how much of a shift can happen, or maybe if PNG just gets a knock or just distracts enough, because what it takes is realized there are a lot of vulnerabilities in how they're having to play this versus X10. And if PNG can do something for them, it's great, but if not, they'll just go ahead and take the kills themselves from X10.
Yeah, Sneak's a little bit bored of that, though. He's going to get rid of one. Gringo, the last player standing now. They've decided they want to deal with one team so they can fully focus on to X10. X10 lose 2 in the blink of an eye. Marcis going huge on the opposite side for his team. Marcis steps around, he gets another one. Is he going to get all 4 himself? One more to deal with. 1 HP and it's enough. Marcis with a big 4K in the end.
That is crazy well played. Using a bait and switch tactic, still keeping a stealth player behind it all. And X10 making it in the later stages yet again has to deal with what it takes, who's on a comma.
1 HP, by the way, when he got that final kill. Huge from Marcis. And what it takes, rocketing up that leaderboard. It was a slow night to start with for them, but 26 points will remedy any woes that they had. But you got to look at it, right? X10 getting a load of points again. Viejo, Pistolero, they're putting together a pretty nice night as well. And I guess we can finally say, never mind, welcome to the lobby.
Yeah, and Duel, man, Duel's kill counts were insane in that. Getting 10 off of it, keeping themselves very competitive. This has been a very interesting night as New Gen All-Star is not finding a lot of successes in these last couple.
Yeah, and the only 2 points they got in that game were off the back of Bale. You got the kill on the dots and got 1 placement point off the back of it, but it's not going to be enough to get them into second place. So let's have a look at the overall leaderboard to see how things stand with just 2 maps to go. And you've got X10 on 41. What it takes now in second on 37. Look at the gap that the top 2 teams are kind of opening up over all the teams on the right-hand side of the lobby.
I mean, Pest Control had such a big game, and then these last 2, it's just been impossible to find it. The Pests just taking all of the control from them, not allowing them to get the kills. New Gen All-Stars as well, a little bit of a struggle finding those points, but we still have tons of games. We still have 2 left. See how much more we can get out of this. But I gotta say, I'm impressed by X10. It's just consistent late game performances time and time again.
Yeah, really good job by X10, and they find themselves on top of the leaderboard. If they keep things going the way it goes, they'll be in a really good spot as the cups continue to go on. But one thing for me, Athletes of Christ, 8 kills overall in the night. It's been like a very unlike them performance. I expect a lot more. But Matt, we're going to jump into a quick break. When we come back, it will be Rondo as we get ready to close out or start the 4th map of the night. We'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. that leaderboard. Teams that aren't having a good night, with the fact that Rondo is so different to the 3 maps we've had before, it's a chance to get your night going with 2 maps left to go.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, if you want to decide to go hot and heavy, this is a map that definitely provides it. There's a lot of ways to kind of pounce on people unexpected. You can play this aggressively, push a lot of the compounds. There is the potential to start an upswing here. And given the fact that it is the second to last map, just like you're talking about, if you need something, this map can provide, but boy, is it a double-edged sword, because if you want to play it aggressive, you can find yourself instantly in the meat grinder with somebody else third partying.
100%. And, we're talking about how, yes, this one map can change your fortunes on the night with it being only a 5-map rotation. But remember, there's 25 maps total over the 5 weeks of these cups. So you really want to be making sure that you're taking advantage of every single map you play, because I said there's 25 maps. Matt, there's 8 teams in this lobby. This is the first maps they've played all cup long because they didn't qualify last week.
Well, what is this? 3, maybe 4 teams? I can't tell playing around Test Track. We've got Duel that's going to be to the west.
Yep.
It looks like it's going to be Faith that's going to be playing the outskirts to the southeast, and then maybe X10 in the middle of it. And that circle goes really far to the north. That's kind of astounding on this one, is Duel just trying to take a couple of shots, say, hey, remember, we're here. This is ours. We want you to play to these.
Yeah, and the circle, speaking of the east, look at the circle shift that we've just gotten. We've gone up to the northeast with Dots in a pretty good spot. And this is where I think Shane Doe is going to get tested as an IGL. Remember, he's still learning the ropes. Again, I got to give him a ton of credit. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and he's getting better every time I see him. But when you take drop spots like they do on the extremities of the map, you don't expect, you're playing to rotate into the circle. Like, your game revolves around, we got to look quick. We got to try to rotate and find soft spots in the zone. When you get a drop like that, I want to see how proactive they'll be, Matt. Like, is it going to be let's loot quick and take real priority in the circle? Or will they kind of find themselves maybe stalling out a little bit because they're not used to being in such a good spot in phase 1?
Well, this is so weird. Whenever we look at this circle, right? There's the river that cuts through the north and the center of it, but then also cuts all the way to the east. So it kind of snakes its way through a decent section of the circle. So, I mean, if you're a gambling person, you kind of have a good bet on going southeast in this circle, which is pretty open. It's mostly compound, like it's got like what, 5 or 6 shack style compounds over there and dips and stuff like that. But if we see a bait and switch up to the north and it does lean along the river more, there are so many vulnerabilities. We talk about how hard it is to cross a road because it's so open. Trying to swim across a river in a later stage of the game is just death.
Yeah, and those rivers are surrounded by, for the most part, valleys on every side. So it gets worse and worse as time goes on.
Yep.
Marcis, though, the, I guess, hero of the last map with that huge play at the end. Yes, it was a 4v4, but he 1v4'd. He went huge in that gunfight. He'll put that E pickup in the sky. And this is what we're talking about. What it takes are not far away from the circle. Like, they're pretty much a vehicle and a 20, 30-second drive away from being in the zone. But instead, they want to go deep. If I see a team take an E pickup this early, they're going deep.
Well, there's also, if you play Stadium, you always want to take an emergency pickup because there's like 5 squads are just due east of you. So I don't necessarily blame anybody for, if you play Stadium, going for emergency pickup. And competitive, Neox Factory, Test Track, and to the west of it, always just has people in it. And so we see safety galore come out from just doing early stadiums, because you have to assume, let's say 2, 3 of those squads make it out. They don't dust up. See, there's no kill feed, nothing happening like that. That's the worst thing if you're the Stadium team to see, because you're like, they're all going to gatekeep us on the circle. They're going to come for us. We got to figure out some way to get over and around them. And if you're taking the emergency pickup, that means that you're coming in with no vehicles on a circle that can go anywhere. That is its own level of terrifying, just to leapfrog whatever is going on at Test Track.
That's why I like teams going like deep when they take these E-pickups and going to the far side of the circle where you're hoping there'll be less traffic, because you do need a vehicle. And the point that you made is one that I couldn't agree with more. It's how often do you see teams E-pickup in and then they're stranded for the rest of the map? Like, where you land is where you got to stay because you've got no options to rotate whatsoever.
There's also just using them for timings or the potential of using them, because it looks like what it takes decided to not take the emergency pickup. And whenever you see a circle like this, I don't necessarily mind that, because remember, there is a cooldown after you use the emergency pickup, right? So like everybody can't throw them down at the exact same time. There's like a timing that happens before the next one can be placed. So sometimes just placing them whenever you get a very hard shifted circle like this, you can also just throw off time if you decide to not take it and deny somebody else a better rotate option. So there's emergency pickups have a lot more like tech and things that are going on back behind them than we often get a chance to really talk about. So I love the chance that we're really getting to dive into it here.
We had a map last year in one of the cups where two pickups perfectly intersected each other, and I was curious as to what would happen. The helicopters just ghost through each other. You know, I was wondering for a second, would there be any form of physics for the players where it might do damage, but no, they just ghost through each other.
Oh, but could you imagine if those helicopters had hitboxes and you could potentially take them down? Oh, it'd be so fun. That's a whole new mortar tech waiting to happen.
I'd be all about that. You know, you see players hit crazy shots on the players. Just take the crazy shots over, just aim for the helicopter and take it down, and then the players have to parachute to the ground. But Tempest, they've got themselves... The flight path from where they are to the circle is pretty much the same as going from the start of the plane to the end of the plane when you're dropping it in the map.
We're going to be watching them for a while. Wit making their rotation. This is where we were talking about. It gets a little bit dicey. Injected is going to be just to the north. I think that they've kind of heard each other. Yeah, there you go. Choppy. He's going to be loud enough to go, nah, Wit, you go somewhere else. Balefrost also is going to go ahead and take out Tater as well. That's going to be just south of the circle, as I think that Fate kind of got pounced on by a rotate from NA.
Yeah, NA are going really far to the south, and it makes sense, because if you go really far south and cross the water, you can expect the eastern side of the zone to be completely clear. So we'll keep an eye. That's you can't park there, mate, as What It Takes will abandon that car and move on. And N0, by the way, is a player that I think is super talented, right? If I'm not wrong, he's Argentinian. He's so damn good.
I mean, a lot going on with that squad in general. I'm kind of intrigued on looking at where players are kind of posting up on the circle, because again, with the river, this is a way more dynamically moving circle than we can expect that we normally get on this map. Because really, it's just if it goes over to Gina City or if it goes down really far south and you get the Hook River that kind of curves around over there. We don't usually get circles that go this north in general, and then one that has the river as such a feature in the middle of it. There's a world where we could see teams start to post up on the island that's in the middle of the river here, Gibson.
I love that. I would love that. It would be, you know, the closest thing that we can get to that in any other map is probably the Kidney Island on Erangel, where or Liver Island, sorry, where sometimes, if you're really lucky, you get a circle pop there. But we'll hop